Be not afraid. These words, uttered by John Paul II at the beginning of his pontificate, echoed for decades and continue to resonate in our hearts. Welcome to an extraordinary journey through the life of a man who changed the course of history and served as the Vicar of Christ on earth. Karol Józef Wojtyla, known worldwide as Pope John Paul II, wasn't just the first non-Italian pontiff in over 400 years. As the supreme pontiff and visible head of the Catholic Church, he was a beacon of hope, a tireless advocate for peace, and a living testimony to divine mercy. His role as the Vicar of Christ on earth gave his words and actions a profound spiritual authority, guiding the faithful through turbulent times. In this video, we'll dive into the life of this giant of faith, exploring not only his biography but also the mysteries that surrounded his journey, his visions of the end times, and the message he left for the world as Christ's representative. Prepare yourself for a story that goes beyond the ordinary, a narrative that blends faith, trials, and a legacy that continues to inspire millions of Catholics and non-Catholics alike. And at the end, we'll reveal John Paul II's final message, words that, we believe, will leave you speechless and touch your soul deeply, reflecting the depth of his role as the shepherd of the universal church. Born on May 18, 1920, in Wadowice, Poland, young Karol faced adversity from an early age. At 9, he lost his beloved mother. 3 years later, his older brother also passed away. These early losses could have weakened his faith, but instead, they forged a resilient spirit and a deep connection with God. It was during these formative years that Karol developed a profound devotion to the Virgin Mary, a cornerstone of his spirituality that would shape his entire life and pontificate. His motto, Totus Tuus, totally yours, dedicated to Mary, became a testament to this lifelong devotion. During his youth, Karol demonstrated a vibrant passion for life. An athlete, actor, and poet, he embraced the beauty of the world with enthusiasm. However, the shadow of World War II would soon darken his horizon. With the Nazi invasion of Poland, his studies were interrupted, but his quest for knowledge and meaning persisted, often finding solace in prayer to the Blessed Mother. It was against this backdrop of darkness that Karol's vocation shone most brightly. In 1942, he secretly entered the clandestine seminary in Krakow. 4 years later, in 1946, he was ordained a priest, beginning a journey that would lead him to the highest echelons of the Catholic Church. Throughout his priestly formation, his Marian devotion continued to deepen, influencing his theological perspectives and pastoral approach. His unwavering faith, sharp intellect, and deep Marian spirituality led him to Rome, where he completed his doctorate in theology. This combination of spiritual devotion, academic rigor, and filial love for the Mother of God would become hallmarks of his future papacy. On October 16, 1978, white smoke rose above the Sistine Chapel, announcing to the world, Habemus Papam. Cardinal Karol Wojtyla, at 58, became Pope John Paul II, the youngest supreme pontiff in 132 years and the first non-Italian Vicar of Christ in over 4 centuries. His pontificate would be marked by tireless energy and a global vision, rooted deeply in Catholic tradition. John Paul II transformed the papacy into a platform of worldwide evangelization, making 104 international trips and visiting 129 countries. He was not just a religious leader but a shepherd to the universal church, confronting the culture of death and defending the dignity of all human beings from conception to natural death. John Paul II's papacy was instrumental in the fall of communism in Eastern Europe, particularly in his native Poland. His support for the Solidarity movement and his message of human rights, rooted in Catholic social teaching, contributed significantly to the peaceful dismantling of the Iron Curtain. On May 13, 1981, the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima, St. Peter's Square was the scene of a shocking event, an assassination attempt on the Pope's life. Mehmet Ali Agca fired 4 shots, seriously wounding John Paul II. The Pope attributed his survival to the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary. What followed was an extraordinary testimony to the mercy he so often preached. John Paul II not only forgave his attacker but also visited him in prison, demonstrating to the world the transformative power of Christ's love and forgiveness. This event further reinforced his central message, divine mercy. John Paul II tirelessly emphasized that God's love and forgiveness are always available through the sacraments, especially confession. He instituted the Feast of Divine Mercy and canonized Saint Faustina Kowalska, the Apostle of Divine Mercy, underlining the importance of this aspect of God's love for the modern world and the Church. As the years passed, John Paul II faced increasing challenges to his health. In 1992, he underwent surgery to remove an intestinal tumor. In subsequent years, falls resulted in a dislocated shoulder and a fractured femur. An appendectomy in 1996 was another test of his endurance. But the hardest blow came in 2001 with the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. This degenerative disease began to visibly affect his activities, making each public appearance an act of courage and determination. Despite growing pain and physical limitations, John Paul II refused to withdraw from public life. He continued to lead the Church, even when his voice trembled and his body weakened. His perseverance became a living testimony of faith and resilience. In his final years, each appearance was an act of heroism. On Palm Sunday 2005, even after a recent tracheotomy due to respiratory complications, he appeared at his apartment window to bless the faithful. His silent but powerful presence moved the world. John Paul II transformed his suffering into a lesson in dignity and faith. He showed the world that true strength lies not in the absence of weakness, but in perseverance in the face of adversity. His struggle against illness became a symbol of hope for millions facing their own battles. Amidst his physical trials, John Paul II maintained a firm gaze on the spiritual horizon. His reflections on the end times were deeply rooted in Catholic eschatology, marked not by fear or pessimism, but by profound hope and a renewed understanding of salvation history. For John Paul II, the second coming of Christ was not a distant and fearsome event, but a reality already begun with the Savior's first coming and continued in the life of the Church. In his apostolic letter, Tertio Millennio Advenient, he wrote, "Christ is the fulfillment of the yearning of all the world's peoples and of their hopes. In him, time becomes a dimension of God." This eschatological vision was intrinsically linked to his emphasis on divine mercy, a central theme of Catholic theology. John Paul II taught that the end times is not primarily a moment of ruthless judgment, but the culmination of God's merciful love. He saw in human history an unfolding of the divine plan of redemption, where each moment is an opportunity to experience and share God's love through the Church and her sacraments. The Pope invited the faithful to live in joyful expectation of Christ's return, not with fear, but with confidence in divine mercy. He emphasized that this eschatological hope should translate into concrete action in the present, working for justice, promoting peace, and being witnesses to God's love in the world, all in communion with the Church. Thus, John Paul II left us a vision of the end times that is, paradoxically, a call to live fully in the present. A message that challenges us to see each day as an opportunity to build God's kingdom here and now, in confident expectation of its future fullness, always guided by the teachings of the Catholic Church. John Paul II's last days were a final testimony to his unwavering faith and dedication to God's people. On March 31, 2005, he developed a high fever due to a urinary tract infection, which quickly progressed to sepsis and septic shock. As his condition worsened, the Pope received the sacrament of the anointing of the sick, formerly known as extreme unction. This sacrament, so often administered by the Pope himself to the sick and dying, now brought him comfort and spiritual strength in his final hours. It was a poignant moment that underscored the Pope's humanity and his unity with all those who suffer. Even in his final moments, the Pope maintained his serenity and faith. Aware that his earthly time was coming to an end, he whispered, "Let me go to the house of the Father." These simple yet profound words reveal the essence of a life dedicated to God and absolute trust in His mercy. On April 2, 2005, at 9:37 p.m. Rome time, John Paul II departed this world. It was the eve of Divine Mercy Sunday, a feast he had instituted and that was so dear to his heart. The timing seemed providential, a final seal on his message of God's boundless mercy. Perhaps most remarkable is the speech John Paul II had prepared for this Sunday but could not deliver. In it, the Pope wrote, as a final gift to humanity, which he had loved and served for so long, John Paul II wanted to emphasize the importance of divine mercy. This text, read after his death, became his spiritual testament, a final message of hope and love for the world. The Vatican medical team, in a detailed study of his final weeks of life, revealed the courage and serenity with which the Pope faced his final moments. To the end, he remained a shepherd, concerned for the well-being of his flock and confident in God's mercy. His acceptance of suffering, united with Christ's passion, became a powerful witness to the dignity of life until its natural end. John Paul II's death did not mark the end of his influence, but the beginning of a new chapter in his legacy. The mystery that surrounded his life, from a young Pole who survived the war to become one of the most influential popes in history, continued after his death, inspiring millions around the world. His last days, marked by the reception of the sacraments and his unwavering faith, became a final catechesis on the Christian meaning of suffering and death. John Paul II's legacy transcends the boundaries of the Catholic Church. He was a bridge builder between religions, a tireless defender of human dignity, and a living example of how to live with faith and courage in the face of adversity. His impact on the world was so profound that, in record time, he was beatified in 2011 and canonized in 2014, becoming St. John Paul II. But beyond titles and honors, it is his personal example that continues to touch hearts and transform lives. John Paul II taught us that faith is not just a set of beliefs, but a way of living. He showed us that divine mercy is not just a theological concept, but a reality that can transform the world. And he reminded us that even in the face of suffering and uncertainties of the future, we can find hope and meaning in our faith. John Paul II's final message, the one that should leave us speechless, was not delivered in a grand speech or written in an official document. It was lived in every moment of his life, especially in his final days. It is a message of unconditional love, unwavering faith, and eternal hope. As we reflect on the extraordinary life of this man, we are invited to ask ourselves, how can we live our faith with the same courage and conviction? How can we be instruments of God's mercy in our world so in need of love and compassion? John Paul II left us not just words, but a living example of how to live and die with dignity, faith, and love. May his life continue to inspire us, and may his final message of total trust in God's mercy echo in our hearts and guide our actions. May we, as John Paul II taught us, open wide the doors to Christ in our lives and in our world. And in the face of life's challenges and uncertainties, may we always remember his words of encouragement, "Be not afraid." As we conclude our journey through the life of St. John Paul II, I invite you to deepen your understanding of our rich Catholic faith. Discover the profound meanings behind our sacred symbols with our ebook, Sacred Signs, a Catholic's Guide to the Rich Symbolism of the Faith. This illuminating guide will transform your experience of Mass, prayer, and Catholic art. Find the link to purchase in the pinned comment below. Don't miss this opportunity to enrich your spiritual life. If you've been inspired by John Paul II's story, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more content that celebrates our Catholic heritage. Let's continue to grow in faith together. May God bless you, and remember, be not afraid.